Time for questions. We got a question from Matt. Now, Matt only has one T in his name, so let's make sure we look at this question very closely. Doing a weekly training split with main goal is to improve sprinting and speed whilst using mainly kettlebells, barbell lifts around sprint session. If you only had 5 to 6 days per week to train, how would you lay this out? Well, if you're going to improve sprinting, let's just put that to the side, the weightlifting to the side. Because if you want to improve your sprinting, you got to improve your sprinting. In this week's Wandering Weights, I quote a great article by an Ohio coach who's a very good sprint coach. But I could also quote Charlie Francis, the Canadian sprint coach, or Barry Ross. To be faster, you have to run faster. And the way most people do it now is they buy those speed traps. It's an electronic light. They're about this high off the ground, and it flashes when you pass it. It flashes when you go to the end of it. Usually 10 meters. You can go to 20 meters, and then it reads out a time. And your goal is to make that time be less and less and less. How you get there is how you become a better sprinter. It's interesting because this Ohio coach, his athletes only do 3 speed traps in a workout. Now, when you come from volume, the American approach, and someone says they do 3, you have to step back and go, wow. But then when you find out that his athletes are faster than your athletes, then you also have to stop and say, okay. So I would suggest, you can find them online everywhere now, but there's a series of movements. They're called sometimes A step, B step, A-B skips. Look up sprint training and take those warm-up sprint training movements very seriously. Strive for the best quality you can. Then I would set up a speed trap if you can, and if you can't, I don't know how to do this without the speed traps, but practice going as fast as you physically can. And then, of course, it might take you 10 to 30 meters to get up to speed, hit that speed trap at 10, and then take 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 meters to decelerate. Had somebody ask me one time at a workshop about deceleration, and it's interesting because in most of the sports I do, deceleration happens like this, in an instant, and that's a hard thing to train on the body. So I keep thinking, because Mike Boyle had just talked about the speed trap, and I kept thinking, well, if you want to decelerate after the speed trap, just run into a wall. Then you don't have to worry about your nervous system having to figure out what to do. Of course, you would be, not very attractive after a few weeks. In the weight room, you're going to have to keep it simple. Easy strength is based on sprinters' workouts. Easy strength is based on track and field workouts. It's a deadlift and it's a press. Basically, that's what I'd like you to do. As a sprinter, it's got to be a big hinge movement, probably a press movement, and then something like an ab wheel. Don't overthink the weight room. You are not going to be an elite sprinter doing curls because you run like this. That's all reaction, not action. If you've got to focus on speed on the track, and the weight room is a great supplement. A couple bits of advice: I suggest you look up Barry Ross's Holy Grail of Speed article. That's when we worked with Alyssa Felix, and of course any of the work by Charlie Francis. What you're going to find in both cases is that the great sprint coaches don't care what you do in the weight room, as long as you don't keep changing things in the weight room. I found that fascinating, because what you don't want with sprinters is soreness. You don't want delayed onset muscle soreness with sprinters, because that soreness cuts into your speed work. Matt, it's a complicated question. It's something that literally takes a few years to adapt and accommodate and develop. But I gave you the broad strokes, and it's going to be up to you to figure out the other stuff.